Greetings, ladies and metalgens, and welcome to this narration of the web series, The Nature of Predators. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 93. Memory Transcription. Subject: Chief Hunter Isif, Orcs Dominion Sector Fleet. Date: Standardized Human Time, December 4th, 2136. Once the Terrans realized I was awake, intelligence officers interrogated me from outside my cell. I spilled more than I should have, perhaps, given how little Zhao cared for saving the Oxor. Cooperation with the humans was the only way to prove that I was on their side. It was foolish to assume that their government could discern my intentions after chaos ravaged their power structure. But I couldn't stop thinking of Elias Mayer and his devotion to a better future. There had to be other humans out there who understood me. I just needed to discover a way to reach them. One of mankind's most interesting aspects was their branching opinions. Someone had to understand that the reasoning dictating that I was an enemy was flawed. My actions should speak my intentions. If the Xyrillians explained their story, it would at least prove that I was not planning on eating them. My acute hearing dialed in on footsteps down the hall, and I put on a collected exterior. It was a shame anger had gotten the better of me. I shouldn't have threatened the Secretary General, no matter how heated our dialogue was. That certainly didn't prove that I was a peaceful guy. The Terran's interrogators had taken those as threats seriously and kept outside of the cell. After all, they couldn't muzzle me if they wanted me to talk, right? The humans knew that I could kill them with a single bite. I wished that I could prove that I was a predator of their caliber, not an animal like they believed. This newcomer approaching my cell would peer through the window, like all the rest. I was a museum exhibit as much as a prisoner. "Hello," I raised my voice, hoping this human could hear me. "I am not your enemy. How do I prove that?" My cell doors clanged open, and an American general wearing camouflage strode in. The dust-colored hair suggested that it was General Jones. She seemed unconcerned by my presence. There were no restraints to keep me from lunging at her or overpowering her. Interest sparked in my brain as she turned her back to me. The lack of fear was a stark difference from my earlier visitors. The primate moved up a chair beneath the camera and hopped atop of its sport. Jones switched the recording device off, her flimsy fingers finding the buttons with ease. Why did she not want this interaction on tape? Her demeanor didn't suggest that she intended to torture me. That would be inadvisable if my unfettered state. Confidence shone in Jones's eyes as she seated herself across from me. I kept my maw closed tightly and listened for her eventual declaration. The human leaned forward, lowering her voice to a hushed whisper. "Isif, I tried to get you to leave. I didn't want to bring you in like this," Jones said. My nostrils flared. "What? You knew this would happen?" "You and Zhao both acted like I predicted. You have a lot in common, but I digress. I don't have much time, so I'm going to make this quick." "Good. I'm listening." "I wanted to establish contact with you for a while, but you must not talk to Earth so directly in future. You are going to get yourself killed, honestly. It's a good thing that we can have a proper conversation in here." I studied the human's narrowed eyes. This was quite different from hostility on the call, when she rebuked me at every turn. Jones spoke as though she was already aware that I was an asset. It made no sense why she allowed my capture, if that were true. Nonetheless, this message returned to a glimmer of hope. "Killed? No, human. I'm good at what I do. I've managed to not wind up dead for decades," I growled. Jones flashed her teeth. "Oh, Isif, we both know that you're not subtle. You have a conversation with Shazar, and then immediately go to Earth. How would you explain that if an Oxor followed your trail?" "I would say I threatened you at length to turn over Silas." "For all you know, Shazar bugged your ship. You're her rival, and she might suspect your motives already. She tells Giznil you're lying, and bam, you're dead." "I see your point." "Shit. I'm glad you didn't say anything self-incriminating on our hail. I was trying to stop you from spilling the beans. For your sake, Isif. I will suggest ways to contact us on the down low, going forward." The Terran general extended a hand and dropped a tooth extension on the table. Jones pointed to her weak canines, then at my snout. I considered that she was asking for a moment before popping a crown into my chipped tooth. The Dominions considered it a weakness to fix fangs, since those marks were hunting souvenirs. However, I could worry about that aspect at another time. Jones leaned back in her seat. There's a hard drive inside that crown, dead drop locations and codes, as well as a full lesson on spycraft. So then, you know I'm an asset. Was all this really necessary? I huffed. I'm afraid so. The amount of folks on Earth who know you're a human sympathizer, I can count them on 2 hands, and they're all part of the 5 Eyes. It's better that way. I do not know what you are referring to, but if I understand, the Secretary General doesn't know about me. You don't trust Zal? It's not so simple. Zal would want to keep records of your role accessible to a lot more eyes, and he would demand that we keep tabs on you. He might risk your welfare for short-term gain, or even blackmail you into going further than you're willing, whereas I see your value. I narrowed my eyes to slits. I am not some vendor that can be pushed around. I'd like to see him try blackmail me. Besides, would it be such a bad thing to have my allegiance documented? The less people who know your true loyalties, the better. We don't know how many breaches occurred while Oxor roamed Earth, or whether the Dominion can access our databases. I'm protecting you from our insufficiency, because I know that we can't safeguard you yet, and this is why Maya did not speak of me. Well, I can't exactly ask him that, Isif, but Maya was always a big-picture guy, and I'd wager he clued at least one person in, someone he trusted. I lashed my tail against the floor, taking a moment to process her words. If Secretary General Zal was oblivious to my actual agenda, that meant that he was serious about locking me up forever. That also meant his aggravating behavior wasn't a performance. He believed that I was a Xyrillian eater fiend that plotted against Earth. How did General Jones plan to secure my release? Of the billions of humans in existence, fewer than 10 were briefed on my identity. I wasn't sure how to feel about the cybersecurity concerns or the assumptions on how Zal might extort me. She also implied that I wasn't supposed to convince the United Nations of my fealty at all. I feel I'm owed an apology in all of this. I've gone out of my way to help humans, and as an Oxor, I despise insults. Listen, I'm sure Zal's words don't sit right with you. It's not really his fault, Jones continued. A U.S. cyber division cracked Oxor communications this week. That transcript, my people wiped anything that would give you away to the larger intelligence community. A growl rumbled in my throat. Nice going. So I guess it's totally okay that he had me tranquilized like a monster. Zhao is paranoid about further attacks on Earth. His home nation represented 20% of the total death tally. His famous speech's tagline was, "Not one more," referring to civilian casualties, and I can't say I disagree. He's willing to protect our home at all costs, and that includes against Oxor plots. Whatever, human. You said we have a little time, so I'll save my scathing remarks for another date. I presume the transcript is how you found out I'm on your side. Isif, please. You continually underestimate us. We've been monitoring you since you set foot in New York. Every conversation, behavior, and holopad search was surveilled. I see. We've got your back, buddy. It's up to you what you want to do next. If you're doing this for a better tomorrow, great. If you just want glory and our adoration, don't bother. Nobody will know your name or what you've done, not as a spy. I'm not here for pride. I just want the centuries of death to be stopped. But how long must I slink around for? That is also up to you. If you pull rank and use food as a motivator, I imagine your fleet would follow you in rebellion. General Jones met my gaze with a knowing smirk. You could offer refuge to those targeted to buy betterment, too. Don't play coy. Could I count on human support? I prodded. Only superficially. We don't want war with the entire Dominion if it's avoidable. We'd prefer to keep the fight against the single warlord. Right. The choice to start an open rebellion is irreversible, so I'm giving you options. You don't have to stick your neck out. I contemplated her words in silence, knowing full well the risks of insurrection. As cowardly as espionage sounded, my own verdict was that Oxor revolutionaries weren't ready. Preparation for an uprising would increase our odds, and humanity might become amenable to our cause. I couldn't fault Earth's non-interference when I'd mused myself that the two-front war would be a steep task. The humans are new to the galaxy, and they're assaulting the Federation already. It's better to bide our time, a little at least. I slammed my paw on the table. Well, we'll do it your way. Now get me out of here, Jones. You gotta bust me out, right? The American general had the gall to laugh. No, God, no. I'm not going to openly oppose Zhao. Someone else is going to order your release. Don't worry. She's already landed. Who? Aaron Kampfer from Alien Affairs, Sarah Rosero, Odyssey Officer. I might have suggested that Governor Tarver come to facilitate the Xyrillian Rescue's return. She'll want to see the Oxal we captured. Tarver? Backing Tarver? That's your plan? Yes. I thought you two were on good terms. Tarver is Vendel, for feck's sakes, I roared. I do like her, but the second a human says it was all a ruse, just Oxal deceit for long-term suffering, she'll be happy to believe it. General Jones smiled. For someone who's supposedly open-minded, you think quite lowly of the Vendel. Try having a little faith. Faith? Are you fecking insane? Tarver will never believe me. I wouldn't even hold it against her. Ah, and they're coming. Guess that means our time is up. Good luck. I curled my lip at the human before turning my head dismissively. Jones scrambled to put the camera back on and hurried out of the room. I hoped the primate had another plan, but Tarver maneuver blew up in her face. It was disheartening to think the progress I'd made with the Vendel leader would be undone for the sake of my cover. Claws clicked across the floor, tailed by the shuffles of dress shoes. Renewed anger surged through my veins as I detected Zal's gravelly cadence. But I couldn't hold a grudge against the Secretary General if he had an incomplete set of facts. This wasn't any time to get emotional. I inhaled deeply and relaxed my facial muscles to look calm. Given that I did respect Governor Tarver, it was worth an honest effort at convincing her. At least I should say I tried to win her over, and I kept a level head throughout our encounter. Perhaps one day I'd point to the fact to repair our relations. Hurtful accusations were bound to fly from the Vendel leader. I steeled myself for the insults that were looming. Only a defective Oxal would feel anything at betrayal, since we weren't supposed to care what others thought of us. It was foolish to me to have any emotions towards a prey animal, knowing that she saw me as a tool. Tarver played at diplomacy because she wanted her planet to be left alone. Believe the Oxal would have the bravado to fly to Earth. The Vendel's squeaky voice hit my ears, carrying far due to its pitch. Those Xyrillians are lucky that you were able to rescue them. Zal's footsteps came closer. The sky is very high up, and the ladder too. We got him before he could turn on humans. He was boasting about using us, right in the cell there. I rose to my paws, watching as the Vendel moved up to the window pane. Fear was visible in her side-facing eyes, despite the barrier between us. Her pupils managed to lock onto me, and shock trickled through her expression. That erased any doubt that Tarver could recognize me, rather than assuming all Oxal looked the same. Chief Hunter Isif? To my amazement, Vendel whirled around in assertive posture. Why the feck would you arrest Isif? I told you. He's manipulating us into fighting the Oxal's battles, then planning to subjugate us all once it's done. Zal answered. It's what he says behind closed doors. We couldn't let him spy on Earth. Tarver swiveled back to the glass. Isif, is any of this true? You really speak like that. Two other Greys, and you had those sickly Xyrillians on your ship. This is hopeless. There is no way she'll believe me. Yes, do both, I sighed. But I was trying to stop Shazar from attacking the humans, without being killed for treason. I rescued those Xyrillians from her farm at great personal risk. Not that you care, I added silently. It took a colossal effort to force a stoic expression. The Vendel backed away from the window, and I resigned myself to her fleeing in disgust. Governor Tarver was open-minded for speaking with me at all. Few in the Republic would support her hearing my side of the story. I appreciated that gesture as a sign of respect. The door clicked open without warning, and an alarmed security general rushed over Tarver. The Vendel had unlocked my cell from the other side. To my amazement, she seemed to be letting me out. My maw dropped with shock. Why would a prey ruler trust the word of an Oxal? The governor flicked her ears. Let Isif go right now. Whatever favors I am owed by humanity, I'm calling them in. What are you doing? Zal tugged the Vendel back and hastily shut the door. He can't possibly believe that story. What he said to Shazar was theatrics so that he wouldn't get executed. Isif wants to end the war and to cattle farming. Mayer told me that much, and yes, I trust him with my life. Elias Mayer didn't forsake me. Jones was right and a prophet. Maybe she guessed who he told from the start. Secretary General Zal gaped at Tarver. Have you considered that Elias was confused or deceived himself? Not at all. Mayer's dying wish was for me to make peace with the Oxal, she responded. and he bled out in my arms. That was what he asked. He was a good man. I'm sorry for your loss, but you cannot trust the Grace. You know that. We ran empathy tests on every Arxor we captured and the Cradle, and not one passed. Yes, if it's different. You have no evidence to support that. The science says that Arxor are a sociopathic race. You know how many human volunteers failed the empathy test? 0. Individual results can vary. You have your people with predator disease. But it would be different if every soldier was a sociopath. I don't think that this is a test as a high-ranking Dominion officer can pass. But if it will pass. Zhao, what does it hurt to humor me? Give him the test, and if he passes, you'll let him go with me. There was a long silence as the human stared down the prey leader. The Secretary-General offered a reluctant nod at last and called for guards to transport me to a lab. Despite Zhao's stubbornness, he seemed unwilling to alienate the Vendel. I was shocked that Tava had fought for me, and I couldn't fathom how to express my gratitude. Politeness wasn't a field that I had practiced in. I decided to comply with the human escort, embracing the conditions of my release. It was ironic that my defectiveness would bolster my standing with the United Nations. Perhaps General Jones would peek at the results too, to ensure that I hadn't pulled a long con on her. The empathy test was the least of my concerns. Instead, I was worried how the Terrans fared against Shazar. The pack predators had wormed their way back into my thoughts again. I wanted to ensure the continual survival, now more than ever. Knowing that Maya's final request was about the Arxor's future renewed my trust in his kind. Humanity was interested in reforming our society, and I could guide them to an age of prosperity. End of story. I would quickly like to thank our Tier 5 patrons, Dragzoon W.R.E, Quantum Wednesday, Ambrose Cattell, Lord Azrakal, Bushmaster 177, Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, and Arcadian. Thank you very much.